everybody. Oh, bye, Gum.
Okay, guys, Gumcast is over. Let's gear up for FauxTech.
Episode 6.
Cast.
Episode 6. So Gumcast over, FauxTech 6 underway. Go.
It is.
Go. Let's start.
Putting my
Here we
phone
go.
up.
Well, I think our last podcast, we were kind of just getting back into the flow of things, and we kind of, kind of lightly touched on a lot of topics and a lot of things that were going on in the weeks previous.
Catch up.
Yeah.
Catch up.
So it's good to be back again in episode 6 here.
Episode
and,
6 is one of my favorites so far.
I think some of the tech news, I guess maybe we'll touch on some of the things there.
What's on the agenda?
Well, Anthony had a few thoughts.
As occasionally I do. I had a couple thoughts. Obviously, Microsoft buying Skype is
It's pretty exciting.
a big dealio.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's
Is it?
pretty exciting. 8.5 billion.
Yeah.
I want to just say publicly that I am so embarrassed. I bid 8.4 billion.
That's insane.
Like so close. Oh, so disappointing.
Not as embarrassing as eBay, though, who had spent billions and then sold them at a loss.
Right.
No kidding.
Of
Yes.
billions.
Billions.
Well, didn't actually eBay
I thought
sell Skype not long ago?
I thought they bought it for $1 billion, sold it for like some 100 million.
Yeah, they bought it for, I believe it was $3 billion. Then they had a stake, and then they sold the stake to a private investment group, and they lost. Their losses were in the billions,
Right.
as I understand it.
Well, I think eBay in general is doing pretty bad, aren't they? Like, isn't it? I mean,
I
it's
have no
obviously
idea.
everybody still uses it.
I think the
but
PayPal acquisition worked out well,
yeah, PayPal has been very good for them.
and I think their core business makes money. So
I don't see how it can't.
yeah,
They own that core industry
Yeah.
in the internet.
they own the infrastructure, and they take a percentage of sales. It's pretty hard not to make money on that.
It goes like this, I think. It goes eBay,
Yeah.
Craigslist, and then in Ontario, Kijiji. I don't know if that brand is elsewhere.
It's out there. I think it's Canada wide. I don't know if it's in the States.
So when I was in Germany, people in Germany and in England as well, eBayed all the time, exclusively buying things via eBay. I think eBay in the west coast of the U.S., you can buy groceries, if I'm not mistaken. Am I making this up? Fact check.
Well, they have eBay stores, so I suppose you could. Like, it doesn't seem completely wild to me.
I think I made that up. I think I totally made that up.
Well, remember that was a big couple of years when we were all hearing about online grocery stores, and then that kind of
They
by
died,
the wayside. Yeah.
but I'm pretty sure there was. I made that up. Guys, I apologize.
Oh.
I'm making up facts.
we look. You know what? We throw the odd little red herring in there for people to go and check out on their own.
That's
It's like
right.
a puzzle.
Yeah, prove us wrong.
Da Vinci Code.
Yeah.
But why do you think Microsoft bought it?
That is the big question.
It is the magic question.
I mean, it's the big question, and it's kind of like, what are they going to do with it? Are they going to keep it the way it is, where we can use it for free, like we're doing, or are they going to integrate? Excuse me.
That was rude. Wow.
Man, I'm sorry.
So this is Rudecast.
Rudecast episode
Belchcast.
1. Or no, it's probably.
Well, I mean, the thing is I look at Skype as I like cherry chip muffins, and or cupcakes. So I think Microsoft has bought the cherry chips to put in the delicious cupcakes because people find them soggy and tasteless.
Right.
So that's,
Wait a minute. Back up.
Okay.
I don't have any idea what you meant by that. You're going to have to say that again.
Oh,
Plus,
darn it.
I heard the chinchilla farm underway again.
They're squealing.
Just wait. You said Microsoft bought it because it's the chips on cherry chip cupcakes. Is that what you're saying?
It's the chips that go in the cupcake. So I think they've bought the Skype. They bought it. I think really they bought the user base for one, and
For
secondly,
sure.
they've bought that technology to then bake in to other Microsoft products.
Right.
Well, I think the biggest place you could see this being used is in Xbox.
Don't they
Like-
already have their
Well,
own?
Yeah, they do, but I mean, taking that user base and all of a sudden making it compatible with the guy that's on a computer.
Yeah.
And it's not just between Xbox and Xbox.
Well-
Now it's open to.
And Microsoft had recently acquired, I think it was in 2008, another company that does voice recognition. And that technology that they acquired is what powers the Kinect, the voice recognition capability of the Kinect itself. So
Right.
maybe they're putting the pieces together to build some sort of communications platform.
Yeah.
I
mean-
bet there's another reason why they bought it.
What are you thinking?
Just to get anything that they do on the internet working. They've had such a hard time.
I
Yeah.
think that's absolutely correct too.
Yeah, I think you're right. And what they have, because if you look at, say, Apple, for example, they have their proprietary FaceTime, and this makes me think that it makes me wonder if Microsoft wouldn't do something the same, where
It's interesting.
the new Microsoft FaceTime or Skype, whatever they're going to call it, is only works on a Windows phone, a Windows mobile phone, and only works.
That would not be good.
No, it wouldn't be good. But if they're going down that route, all of a sudden they've got a huge market share with video conferencing.
Well, that was one of the comments that people made, that they thought that this was going to hurt the Windows Phone in some way, and I cannot understand how a rational person could come to that end conclusion. It only would help the Windows Phone. In
Absolutely.
that there's basically Apple has a product, Google has a product, and Microsoft has a product, and the comment was made, well, they had to make an acquisition of this type in this playing field to stay even with the competitors.
Yeah, and I guess the other people that were bidding on this were Google and Facebook, right? Actually, Microsoft was a late player to this.
Yeah, well, Google,
wasn't it a surprise move?
Google was really heavily into buying them at one point, and I actually read attached to this story. There's an interesting story of how they got talked out of it because it didn't mesh with the existing technologies that Google had. So.
Well, the thing that Google already has is Google Voice and video integration. Already going,
and it works really well, but it just
work.
doesn't have anywhere near the platform penetration
of Skype. And where if Facebook bought it, obviously that's an obvious spot for video conferencing, and that kind of interaction with other users would be very valuable. So I could see that. But actually, in the last couple of weeks, I've heard that Google and Facebook were the only two bidding on Skype. Like, it wasn't an old news. And then when this Microsoft thing, and I just read this today, I was like, where'd that come from?
Yeah, this one kind of snuck up on me too. But
well, even years ago, I think it was 2006. I remember reading articles where they were feeling desperate. That the things that I guess what was seen as core value on the internet in business, or from a business or enterprise perspective, was owned by everybody but Microsoft, and everything they tried failed. And the only thing that was working for them at the time was Xbox, and then the red ring of death and recalls. Yeah. And I think it was 2006, 2007, all this doom and gloom and how they had to find something. But the thing was, the whole time that everybody was saying that, this company was just making buckets of money.
Yeah, well, I mean, their Xbox Live platform had definitely turned the corner into profitability. By this point, I think at that time it was still kind of in question as to whether they would actually make money at it.
And wasn't that the first time that Skype was up for sale? Or just after that?
I think it was, like, I'm trying to think 2007, 2008 sounds like the right time frame. But
anyway, what I'm thinking is, if you want to, everybody who uses Skype knows it's one of the prestige elements that a computer can have now. And when I say prestige, that's not what I mean, but it's, if you're showing somebody from the past what a computer can do that's valuable now, or if you're going to show your grandma something that the computer can do now, Skype is probably one of those top 3 or 4 things that shows what the value is of a computer, and it fits that sort of image of the future that you have, that video phone.
Yeah, well, I think Skype was one of the first software products that actually worked for internet, what you would call telephony. Telephony, thank you. For internet, for two-way communications online. Because I remember I was kind of when people started really buying home computers, I was involved in selling them at that point. And I remember all of this time spent with people trying to troubleshoot, like, is your modem set to duplex? Like, all of these ridiculous, archaic things that had to happen for two-way communication online. Because people realized, oh, I could talk to my friend somewhere else. And they didn't realize it was just a stuttering, colossal, collapsing nightmare. And I think Skype was the first. When Skype had come out, this was one of the first times that it seemed to work reliably enough that you could get regular people using it, as opposed to.
Well, that's why I say your grandma. Like, you could throw on Skype and show somebody, I don't want to say a demo, but to me, it's something that if I was going to sell computers, I'd want to have Skype up, and I would want them to see, somebody on the other side that was in Denver or whatever. Yeah. And remember, Skype is also one of those things that it means what it is now. You Skype somebody, it's become like you eBay something.
And that was brought up as Skype has become a verb.
Yeah, sure. That's what I guess powerful. I could have said there. I could have said that.
Well, you helped me out on telephony, so.
And they obviously can't eliminate that, like the brand. They're paying for the brand as much as anything.
Oh, they own it.
It's interesting what Microsoft is doing. I'm thinking about this, and I'm thinking about another partnership they forged a couple months ago with Nokia. they're really trying hard to set themselves up with, because
Mobile.
most of the world still uses Nokia phones, right? To set themselves up with a huge user base. And now the trick is going to be, come on, Microsoft, now you've got to deliver. I mean, they've had these opportunities before, but they've got to deliver a user experience that people will not just try it out and go, yeah, that's cool, and then jump back onto their iPhones.
I don't know if they have to do that.
No?
Can't they just keep doing what they're doing? I mean, remember when there was all this talk about their stock price is more abundant, it never goes up. They're
right, very steady.
Their core competencies are just bland and nobody finds them exciting or whatever. But they just make money every time they release a product. It sells like crazy. Everybody buys it. Every office gets it. It's just ubiquitous. So
right.
I don't think they have to do anything fancy. It's just the problem with these corporations that say growth is the key rather than a status quo that's awesome.
From a stock market perspective, I mean,
investors' points.
That's definitely true.
But I think that's probably why they've been chasing things on the internet or
to create some excitement.
Yeah, to build some kind of growth into what they're doing. And Skype is probably growing all the time. I don't know any data, but I assume it's growing all the time. And I would think that this is one of those cases where you buy something that has fairy dust all over it and you apply it to something else that you're using, put it into Windows in some way, and then whatever the next Windows is.
Well, that's the most interesting part of this deal is that Microsoft historically has in the phone historically in the space of 10 years has done poorly in the phone space. Is they had kind of a disastrous outing with the Kick, which is like a T-Mobile joint venture. And that they came out with a phone.
That was almost a famed bust, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was a huge bust. But then what had come out of that and the aftermath of that was a big story about how Microsoft internally was so dysfunctional that they weren't allowing groups to do what they did best. There was a whole bunch of kind of infighting for resources and teams, and people ended up leaving in the aftermath of this story. And it kind of leads me to wonder whether Google has done very well acquiring small companies, and I think it's because Google had kind of baked in that capability as a company to be able to absorb small teams and work with them, where Microsoft, I wonder, hasn't quite figured that out yet, as they have their set corporate culture bringing in outside expertise.
How can they not have figured it out?
The problem, I think, with Microsoft is that they're so fragmented. I think the way that Microsoft operates, and a friend of mine used to work there, and he's head of a certain division, right? And that division is almost like its own company. And so you've got the Xbox division, and
you're talking about the Steve Jobs effect, where you have the one autocrat who runs the company in his image.
Rule them all,
yeah.
And where everything's molded to work together.
Well, they have these, what those called, corporate perspective, they call them silos, right? So the Office team doesn't talk to the Windows OS team, which doesn't talk
and there's
to the
actually
SQL
competition.
Server team. Yeah, and they're all fighting for talent, and money.
Yeah.
And historically, the Office team was always the dream team, right? Like the head, who was that? I don't remember his name. There was that guy who ran Office who was sort of like the Wonder Boy, who was the equivalent of the Wonder Boy that designed the iPod at Apple.
And a classic example of what we're talking about, and I don't have the names of the details per se, but I know that Microsoft was working on something like Google Docs way before Google Docs ever came out, for example. And there was a team working on that, getting it ready to go. And of course, Microsoft has something like that now with the live stuff and all that. Mm-hmm. But they could have been ahead of the curve if they had done it first. But what happened was the Office guys said, "No way."
They nuked it. Yeah,
exactly.
They nuked it.
What I was getting at is that what happens is when you've got somebody who's attached to their silo or whatever, you have to deal with the fact that his loyalty is not so much to the company, but it's to his specific fiefdom
and to his team
or fiefdom, and that's the kind of guy that should be promoted to some position of authority over multiple silos or multiple fiefdoms. And maybe they offered that guy and he didn't want to do it. Or I can't even speculate how a company that's so rich and so powerful and has been so big for so long can ever make any mistakes that three guys sitting in a podcasting studio could begin to question them. But somehow everybody who thinks they know anything about technology can find all the flaws that Microsoft is making. That's crazy to me.
Hindsight's always easy.
It just seems so odd that there could be, do you remember when what was the? It's just so funny that I don't remember this. What was the Windows that came out that was terrible? That wasn't long
Millennium?
ago? Not Millennium.
was horrible.
The one prior to Windows 7. I've totally
Vista.
Vista.
Yeah, which wasn't so bad.
Which
but yeah.
wasn't so bad. But
Wasn't
you remember
as bad
how
as
it was?
But the public
It was a
perception
nightmare.
insane.
And everybody knew that what was wrong with it, and everybody knew that it sucked, and everybody just knew that it was,
Yeah.
a disaster. Then you see the reports, how much money they made. It was crazy.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody had it.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
yeah.
internally, they knew it was a dog too.
But the point I'm getting at is it can't be mistakes. They can't be making giant mistakes.
No, but they're kind of still riding on their laurels of the good choices they made, or in early days.
Well,
they're still riding that wave
and Vista,
in the same business model.
Yeah, Vista was a step for Microsoft. I think Vista was a step they knew they needed to take. They revised the driver security model entirely from the ground up. They changed a bunch of stuff in the back end. And that they did a very poor job, I think, of communicating. Well, I think they did a very poor job of making it on the front end as demonstrating the those enhancements. And I think they took so many things away when they revised the face of it that they angered their client base.
And that's the problem. Microsoft, like, to be fair to Microsoft, they're dealing with, which separates them from Apple, or separates Apple from them.
Well, I know what you're going to say.
Yeah, they have to deal with legacy. With legacy computer systems. They can't just, like Steve Jobs, would say, you know what, we're not going to use. And there's actually talk of this. We're not going to use Intel's processors anymore in our next laptop. We're going to use ARM.
And think
Boom.
of all
And
the
everybody's-
ridiculous numbers of chunks of hardware that they have to build their material for. So they can't.
That's what I mean. But they have to always be backwards compatible. I think probably if you're an engineer at Microsoft in charge of developing the new Windows, you'd be saying, let's start from scratch and get rid of all of this crap, that's so old. What do you think, Anthony?
I'm like, this is a programmer's dream.
Yeah.
I'm like,
But they
programmers
can't.
always have this horrible tendency to be like, just throw the baby out with the bathwater. Like, this has become
Wait a minute.
kludgy. Let's just
That would hurt the baby. Don't do that.
Exactly. You lose that. You don't want the bathwater, but you need to keep the baby. And programmers become zealous, and then there's airborne babies and all sorts of
That's not good.
So
they're
As
they're
a former
playing
baby owner.
it safe, and they're just doing a slow and steady build, I guess, and slow steady move. And hopefully, I'm sure they have a strategy.
well, I mean, and
Well, that's the thing. They have to. They have to have
Yeah.
enormous. Like, this is the thing I don't understand. How can they not be doing brilliant, amazing things? They have
Yeah.
all the top people that they can possibly hire or afford.
If I was Microsoft, okay, let's play this game.
All right.
If you were Microsoft, Rand, what would you do?
If I was Microsoft, I wouldn't worry about this growth model. I would focus on the things that I'm already doing well, and we're already rolling in barrels and buckets of money. I wouldn't try and fight against companies like Apple on their terms. I would fight them on my terms. So I wouldn't do this. Like, everybody sees Steve Ballmer, head of Microsoft now, as a kind of emotional, kind of maniacal, bombastic character. I wouldn't want that. I would want to say, okay, we're enterprise, we're in business for a reason. All these companies buy our stuff automatically when we put it out. Let's focus on satisfying all those needs. We don't have to satisfy, whatever cool young people on the internet are saying things in blogs who probably buy Apple products, or, you know what I mean, hipsters, whatever you want to say. The young people who sort of define popular culture, I wouldn't care if I didn't have them. I wouldn't necessarily worry about the market that is the most obvious. I would worry about the market that I'm satisfying already, and I would continue to satisfy them as deeply and as long-term as I could, because that's where all my money is made. And then I would R&D like crazy, and I would do things like buy Skype or whatever that made sense.
It sounds to me like you are doing what Microsoft is doing with your as the CEO of Microsoft.
Yeah, but
you'd be a good candidate.
Yeah, it would be, and I'm just putting my hat out there. You want to put some money in it? That didn't come out right. I'm putting my name out there. Put my hat out in the name.
Sure.
What's the saying?
you
Come
throw
on.
your hat in the ring,
That's all I'm trying to say.
and your name's on it though. So no.
Oh, my
whose
mom
hat
put it.
belongs-
My mom put it on.
Yeah.
Embroidery kit.
Yeah.
Totally. But what I'm getting at is, for years they kept trying to fight. Right. Like those ads came out. I'm Microsoft. I'm Mac. Like, who cares? Right. If you're Microsoft, you don't care. You don't need to worry about that.
Right.
If it's 8% of
Sure.
people who have OS, OS 10, OS 10 point whatever, Snow Leopard, whatever you want to say, at the time that they had 8% or 5%. Fine, have your 8%, have your 5%. I'll keep my 90, 92, whatever it is. And I'll just continue to make money the way that I'm making it. And if stock market investors don't like that, then it's not my fault. And I shouldn't have to try and do something bombastic and crazy to try and inspire them. Well, and I don't think that Ballmer's doing the right thing.
Last quarter, Microsoft had $50 billion in cash.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like that's more than I've got, I'll tell you right now.
More
but
than
not as much as Apple.
Yeah.
But not as much as Apple, just a much smaller company, as far as scale goes. And
but remember what Apple sells, consumer products in a way that Microsoft doesn't.
No, that's right.
And, the idea of making the Zune after the iPod is a success is a recipe for disaster.
And the unfortunate thing with Microsoft is they're always late to the table because their products are awesome. Like the Zune is an awesome player. The Zune Marketplace, awesome idea. It's all very, very slick. It's very, very nice. Windows Phone, played around with that a little bit. It's a nice interface.
Of course it is. But what's crazy about it is they go in and we're going to fight them head to head. I don't think that's ever good.
I see what you're saying. So, Anthony, you're now the CEO of Microsoft.
Well, I think I would definitely do it, Rance. I have a lot of praise for Microsoft, oddly enough, for someone who at one point was very, very hateful of them. But I think core competencies, like I will go down kicking and screaming saying Windows 7 is a fantastic product.
Agreed.
I can build a new PC out of whatever stuff I have cobbled around, and like 90% of the time it automatically installs all the drivers. It works incredibly fantastic. Office is kludgy and fat, but it does the job well, and it's so I mean.
That's what I'm saying. Everybody uses these.
So refine that experience, I would say. As far as the phone, I think Microsoft's big play right now, as far as R&D, would be cross-platform. So tying the phone to the desktop to the console. That's, I think, where they can really leap forward here. Is that they have their devices in homes right now.
Mm-hmm.
I think they need to, in the mobile space. I mean, they've committed strongly to it now. So I would say stay at that and try to find ways to leverage your desktop and your console to your phone that makes it worth getting. As it has to be more useful to you to an iPhone, and that's what you have to do. That's my story about that.
Yeah.
Well, look, you said something that I want to sort of address. Why do we have to? You said going forward something about they have to expand or they have to grow. Do we always have to grow? I don't understand. I guess we need to have a businessman who's I don't know what, some kind of corporate wizard come in and tell me why it has to be growth. Why can't we continue to make our whatever massive number of billions we make a year?
And I'm not even thinking from money side of it because I'm like you. I don't understand that stuff, and we need someone to explain it to me too.
Maybe you do need that. I don't know, just to survive.
The thing is, even Microsoft, a fair bit of its value is tied up in shares, and people own those shares. If people aren't making money off those shares, they will get rid of them. And then when they get rid of the shares, the company has less. The $50 billion is going to go down.
Yeah, but they continue to sell the same amount of products. See, it's my own ignorance that makes me not know, I guess.
Right.
It's my ignorance.
And I think what you're saying is true, for maybe the next 10 years or whatever. So I guess it's the forward-thinking stuff that if they want to be current 10 years from now.
You're right. But to me, that's not about growth. That's about research and development.
Sure.
And that's a separate issue.
And that's really what I meant, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Then
I think we all agree.
Well, I mean, is there a Microsoft tablet? Are they going to try and do that next?
Well, I think so. And what they should be doing, I think maybe they are doing, is they should be developing different versions of the next operating systems, just like what Anthony's saying. That's all talking to each other really, really nicely. But you're not just slapping Windows 8, desktop version onto a tablet, which is which is what it is now. If you can buy Windows 7 tablets, but who wants that, right? It's clunky, and it's compatible with your desktop. But they should be focusing, I think, on creating, a tablet version that kicks serious butt. It's like think about isn't the Xbox just running Windows, but it doesn't look like Windows, or not? Anthony, you would know better than anybody.
You know what? I wouldn't be able to begin to speak with that. My guess, I couldn't even begin to guess if it's running an embedded version of Windows OS or if it's running a Linux variant. I would assume it would be running a hacked up version of some form of Windows, but honestly have no idea.
Here I'm going to trumpet my ignorance. There's something called the Xbox Media Center, right?
Mm-hmm.
That is a software package that runs on a PC.
And that is from the Xbox team. Like that's a legit piece of software.
Yeah.
Okay. Whenever someone says, do you want to hack something that can be putting, content from your computer to your TV, that's the platform that all the hackers will put on. Like if you hack your Apple II...
to accept data from the media center.
Yeah, if you hack your Apple TV 2 or whatever, they want to put Xbox Media Center on. If you get some... old crappy computer, you put Xbox Media Center on it. So to me, that's an area where they appear to have everybody's decision is made. That's the interface you want to use. So they should get deeper into that. And it looked like they were at some point. Maybe
that was my point exactly earlier, is like tying the consoles to the TVs to the phones.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, again, I think the missteps in the past where Microsoft has misstep is not in the console space so much, but where Microsoft is a software. They're called Microsoft for a reason, because they are a software company.
That's right.
Where Microsoft has decided that they're somehow a hardware company as well, in an effort to perhaps ape Apple is not the right path to take. Microsoft is building the software to power this open system of hardware devices.
Right. Agreed.
I think, I don't know if it's to ape another company or if it's because they're trying to do everything all the time.
Well, the problem they have isn't maybe so much to do with making money, obviously, because they're making money and they're doing all the right things that way. But it's the changing public perception where they have the struggle. And that's why we're even having this discussion, right?
Hey,
well, this is always my continual frustration.
Is Bing successful? Does Bing?
No.
Bing, bing, bing.
No, it's losing money. And again, they've had to do the same thing. They've had to forge partnerships with Yahoo and other
Right.
companies in order to have a sense of success with it. But again, so what do? They buy Nokia, which will be all Bing enabled phones, right? Like, you know what I'm saying? So that they buy users, and they'll maybe do the same thing with Skype. Maybe it'll be ad based, and those ads will be coming through Bing and all the rest, right? So it's a good idea, I guess. They've got the money to burn to do it.
Bing could make money, but right now it's not. For sure.
There was a time when I knew way more about Microsoft than I know now. It's maybe the thing that I'm talking about them doing is a mistake because I'm evidence that it isn't working in a way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So maybe whatever I said is to be disregarded. So Steve Ballmer, if you're listening and you were going to just follow my advice, clearly I'm wrong, because I feel much I feel much distanced from what Microsoft is doing, and I used to feel like I knew what they were doing, and I was very tied to the company.
And Microsoft has kind of faded, I think, in the background in a lot of ways. Like with this, Apple has had an emergence, and Google, which didn't previously exist, has kind of stepped into that place as the big kind of sexy company to work for, where it used to be Microsoft. Like U of W grads were like, Microsoft.
For
and
sure.
Microsoft, that mantle has definitely been placed on the Google, where all the big brains want to work.
And I'm going to echo what other people say, so this isn't my thought, but people say that Microsoft's really the new IBM, right? And when Microsoft was the new hot kid on the block, IBM was an old established business, right? And then Microsoft came along, they were the Google, they were the Apple, Apple's not the right comparison. But just thinking of IBM, and I just brought up their quarterly earnings just to make sure my point worked. They had a record revenue this quarter of $29 billion.
IBM did.
Up 7%.
Yeah, because
right?
IBM's...
What do they even make?
Exactly. What do they do?
Well,
but it's probably what you were talking about. Core competency,
Satisfy.
just staying with that
well, the other company
user.
I was going to throw it is Oracle.
Right.
Do we even know what they do?
No.
They build databases.
Right.
They've been buying people as well. But the interesting thing about IBM is IBM has moved... I think maybe I don't think that's correct, but IBM has moved up the food chain. So the people that buy IBM products now are mega corporations.
Right.
So basically they run enterprise, which is like you're talking thousands of users, and they still have their main and I guess it'd be called mini frame systems.
Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So they've just moved up the food chain out of the consumer market where they used to be. And
so there's money in backbone. Like if you, and that's
for sure.
So that's why I mentioned Oracle. So Microsoft
Oracle,
do the same.
SAP, like the
Cisco.
yeah, these used to be big names, I think, in the kind of the big .com boom, but they've kind of faded out because
Now, is it fade or they make their money, they do their business, they're in the backbone?
you got it. Yeah, I would agree completely with that.
And so what's wrong with that? Microsoft? I mean,
No, I mean, and IBM's probably, I don't know how old they are. Like, are they a 100-year-old company? Almost?
I
Early
can't-
1900s, I would
Yeah,
say they'd be pretty
so-
close.
Right, so Microsoft is still baby, and has a long way to still ride on their brand.
That being said, a lot of Microsoft's dollars comes to selling to the consumer, not necessarily to corporations. But so I think they are a little bit torn as to how do you satisfy the needs of a home user versus satisfying,
For sure.
like Rand said, like focus on the operating system and focus on Office because that's what companies are paying for.
But I think as things begin to continue to evolve and to change, with tablets becoming more and more popular, for example, I think that I'm sure they are, but they need to be thinking about that. And I'm thinking it's a golden opportunity for a company like Microsoft to actually build something from the ground up.
To cast off the shackles of their reverse engineering.
So you could have a version of, say, Windows 8 that's optimized for a tablet, but it doesn't look like Windows 8 on your desktop.
Well, do you remember
and there's only a module.
They tried
within,
that actually.
Oh, have they?
Do you remember that desktop thing that they had? I can't remember the name of it.
The Surface.
Yeah, the Surface thing.
Oh yeah.
That
was
been
huge on YouTube.
Yeah.
And and it sounds like it's still in development. Like
I've read about that too recently, and that's one of those areas where it looks like the iPad is doing one better in a way. And if you look at where they say they're going with, I don't know if it was iMacs and Mark will probably know more about this than I did, with gesture-based computing, and it's going to go right into that service area. And if they don't hurry and work that system, whatever it is.
Microsoft is already there with the Kinect. This is what we talked about last time. Like the Kinect should be plugged into a PC. Like,
right.
Yeah.
This is what Microsoft should be doing is like, and one thing that the other thing I mentioned Microsoft does very well is I get emails from Microsoft all the time saying, tell us what your opinion is. Do you want to use our software? Like we'll give you like all of the web tools free, all the web authoring tools free. All you have to do is make a site using them and let us know. Like they've done a really good job of reaching out to the developers.
Yeah.
And maybe not as great as a job of reaching out to the geeks and the people that fix, that
it's like this hipster element, or I don't want to say hipster, but it's like this. They're not cool somehow.
Exactly, and they need to get. And I think the Kinect is their path back into coolness.
That is because that is cool.
And like the Surface was, like everybody looked at the Surface demos that came out in 2008, 2000, maybe 2009, and said like, "This is the most awesome thing ever." Why don't we have it?
How much is it going to cost to put in your bar? That was the problem.
Well, there's that, but I mean, look at this colossal monstrous computer that our intrepid. What do I call him?
He's our producer.
Maestro.
He's our boss.
The Maestro is seated in front of here.
You're
Yeah,
talking about me? Like this Apple?
like this giant, where people are buying 27-inch screens already.
Yeah.
No. What I was getting at is how much the Surface would have cost. Like if you bought that rig and you wanted to put it somewhere, it was going to have to be in a commercial space. But you don't just want it for putting your bill down, your credit card on and figuring out your bill. And that was what that one. If you remember,
Yeah,
that
the demo, which is
video.
like the document scanning, and then they could resize and move the document.
And that was a pretty poor selling point. It should have been something like tabletop gamers or some kind of really exciting.
This is Susan Armstrong's big idea. Is like we were talking because I was talking to her about cocktail arcade cabinets. And she says, why aren't restaurant tables doing that? Where you can just basically put your quarter in, but you'd basically just swipe your credit card. Your menu would be off to one side. You shove it off to one side, and you play Asteroids or you play
tabletop
Angry
gaming.
Birds or something.
Absolutely.
It would definitely save a lot of married couples from having to talk to each other. Think of your first date would be so much better.
It would be so awesome.
Have we in any way ever seen anything recently where there's a video or something to show that they have a Windows 8 or something coming up?
Oh, we know Windows.
Exciting.
We know when. Well, Windows 8 actually beta is about to be released, isn't it, Anthony?
I should know and I don't. I've heard.
I'm pretty sure.
I've seen press releases about it and some tech blogs.
What's the selling point? What's the exciting thing about it that's being said? You probably listen to Paul Thurrott still.
Well, yeah, and I'm trying to think of the things he says. It's awesome. That doesn't help.
What really? Paul
Thurrott?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it is. I'm wondering what the selling point is.
Well, yeah, Windows. Here it is. Windows 8 Beta. It's right here. Windows8beta.com. Mango.
You know what? This is so ironic.
Mango's the
one of the
worst,
few
man.
fruits I don't like.
The mango?
Yeah.
Huh.
I like
Too
just
sweet?
a,
Okay.
Okay, so
sour?
they're previewing.
I love apples.
So we're just a little premature. They're previewing it May.
Apples are
May
crunchy.
24th is when they're going to be previewing it to the world. Windows.
Well, I'm very curious.
So we're all
Yeah.
VIPs then?
Yeah, I just got a ticket here.
Excellent.
I'm super curious about this. Now you notice what's on the bottom right of that?
Yeah, Windows Phone, and you're looking over at Xbox Live,
Yeah.
which is still up. In fact, I've heard stories of people going and buying Xboxes just so they could play games.
Okay,
like Portal.
my son's Facebook post 2 days ago was,
Yeah.
I want an Xbox.
Yeah, because the frustration of the PlayStation.
But
Network
here's the
being
thing.
down.
Come on, guys. IE, gamers, relax. You don't have to. I'm not going to defend Sony. Never mind. I stand corrected.
I was going to say, I'm not going to be able to support you in a position.
Well, but here's
on
what
that
I'm
show.
going to say. I know the social element of gaming is gaming now.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about. But what I'm going to say is this. Get some single-player action. And play. A lot of those games have single-player fun, don't they?
Yeah, but
Boost up your
most
skills.
kids rip through that
Aren't
in
you-
the first 24 hours.
But aren't
right?
you paying for the PSN experience? Isn't that like
No. I don't think. I think
in
it's
my
free.
ignorance again,
It's free.
I pay it. See, I pay. I render unto Caesar a monthly
How dare you?
I
a
don't-
monthly
don't.
fee for my Xbox Live enjoyment.
No.
What is that? How much?
Oh,
is that
you
a
do.
month?
I'm a
right.
gold member. It's $80 a year.
No, it isn't.
It is.
So you could do that on PlayStation.
And if you're not, you can't play. Well, you can't really play online with other players.
really,
You can play single player, which
Huh.
is free. So
Now
I don't
I'm
think
shocked.
that's not the same on the PlayStation Network because you can still do multiplayer. What the PlayStation, the bonus stuff is, you get games early. There is,
You get a little.
it's
space
more of
or
a
something,
carrot
don't
than a
you?
stick.
yeah, and then you get some online media and things like that.
Right.
More so in America.
Listen, it's terrible that it's still down
Yeah.
because it's suggestive of serious problems on a deep level
Mm-hmm.
that could be linked to people losing their serious credit card numbers, their serious online data,
Mm-hmm.
their serious whatever, who knows what, and somebody is probably losing their jobs. Probably terrible things are happening up in Sony somewhere. But the thing that we have.
Sorry.
The thing that we have to remember is it's basically so people can play games together. So it's not life or death. That's what I would say. It's going to come back. It may take a while.
Mm-hmm.
I heard something about May 31st.
And we're all going to get a nice little welcome back prize package of some kind.
Yeah, they're going to suck you up.
They're
So
going to give us a month free of PlayStation Network premium content.
it's not
Yippee.
terrible. You know what? It is terrible. I'm not going to defend someone. I already said that. But what bothers me about it would not bother the people who are bothered. You know what I mean?
Right.
The thing
Yeah,
that I think is bad
because-
about it is not the thing that my kid thinks is bad about it.
No, your kid is inconvenienced. For you, though, it's a possible loss of your user data.
Exactly.
That's a big deal.
That's my frustration. Like my credit card's in there, and I think
Yeah.
is it up for sale in Bulgaria right now? I'm just hoping it's one of the the least looked at of the 24 million credit card numbers that are for sale.
Mm-hmm.
So they are rumored to be, or so you read. Whether that's true or not, I don't even know.
I was kind of hoping the VP would make some videos about it myself.
The VP, Joseph Biden, the Vice President of the United States.
This Sony VP that does the funny game videos because he makes me laugh. He's an amusing man.
I don't think he wants to say anything about
No,
it right
he
now.
wants to stay as far away from this as possible.
Do they know, or have they announced yet how it happened, or are they still?
Well, there's still debate over whether they're anonymous. I mean, at first they denied it, but now I think some people have come forward that from the anonymous hacking group.
Well, there was a
that-
civil war in Anonymous, was there not?
Which who knows. And the flaw, I think, has been narrowed down to a no firewall or something stupid like that.
They use an
survey.
open source package and had a reported vulnerability that wasn't fixed, and so someone found a way to exploit it.
Yeah,
How's that for classic?
it's
Womp, womp,
yeah.
womp.
It's and I suppose it's no different than a lot of things with trial and error in our
Hey man, nothing's safe
new
forever.
cloud culture. The biggest
nothing
issue
is
with the
safe
PlayStation
forever.
thing is the fact they actually have username, passwords, and credit cards.
That's what bothers me.
You know, things being down for a day or this and that. That's,
Well, this is a long time down. Let's
Yeah.
be fair. It
Yeah,
is.
yeah, yeah.
It's a long down.
This is a reconstruction. Like,
Totally.
that's
And I
what
guess
this
you know
is.
what?
Which is given this is what I think this is what they should have done given the circumstances. So they took the right step. I think where they misstepped was early on, as they tried to basically limit the damage.
yeah, and
And they didn't. And
lie
I
their
think
way
people,
through
people knew that there
Yeah.
was a big deal, and then they didn't really come out and say until weeks later.
Yeah, it's like that password. What's that password company that also just sent out an alert last week?
LastPass.
LastPass.
Is that right?
Yeah, I think it is LastPass. And they sent out an alert immediately just at the thought of maybe, just because they noticed they were getting more packets than normal going out of their server. And so they just sent out immediately, hey, maybe you should all change your passwords, right? And Sony should have
Yeah.
done that immediately, as opposed to try to cover it. Oh, no, they don't have your credit cards. Oh, well, now it looks like they do.
yeah.
It's a big PR nightmare, basically. But you know what? I'm still going to use my PlayStation. It doesn't really, like Rand, it doesn't really affect me. I can still
but
get on and play some.
Again,
We're fringe users.
We are fringe
and the
users.
markets that where they were talking about only certain markets had their transaction data or their banking data compromised. So says Sony.
Yeah.
So says Sony, which is primarily European. It sounds like Australia was one of them too, but
Look,
it didn't look like North America.
Look at another way. If Netflix was down, and you were paying your monthly for Netflix,
Right.
pitchforks.
you'd be furious.
Yeah.
Right. You
But
need your documentaries.
Netflix is there. I believe Netflix was down for a day or something, and they gave everybody a free month. You know what I mean? Like, they do think because these things are going to happen. Like, this is a new brave world.
It's inevitable.
It's inevitable.
It's a new brave world. That'd be a great name for a novel.
Okay, you can use it, anybody. So we're all in growing pains with that, but it's more just don't lie
It's
to
your
us.
response.
Yeah, don't
Your
lie
response,
to us.
yeah.
Don't lie to us.
When they come back, they better have something really special. Like, here's a
Yeah.
free download, some game that.
Well,
don't-
I think one thing they're offering, isn't it, a year of identity theft analysis from some top huge company? Debt.
That's
sounds like
actually
you're
not a bad
joking.
idea.
Sounds
That sounds
like
like
you're
a
joking.
joke, but that really is not.
No,
a bad
I'm pretty
idea.
sure that's accurate.
Computer
I remember.
Associates or something.
I should look
Wild.
at it. I'll have to look it up.
Well, look, we should jump to a new
let's jump to
topic.
a new topic.
Nice segue.
Mark. No, I don't want to make a little segue because I think there's nothing we can say about it
No.
except
Yeah,
what we said,
that we
and
already
I'm
said.
going to keep saying something that's going to make a player say, "You dumbass." The point of the
Player.
game is that we want to play together,
Right.
And you know what? I get it, and when I started talking, I realized I sound like the old man down the street.
Well,
Why do you need that joystick?
Yeah, but I think your position is solid. Is like the user data is a much bigger deal than
That's
the
the fear.
inconvenience. I think the inconvenience is actually again a good sign. And the inconvenience of having to wait a month means that they are going to get this right.
Fix it up.
Well, the truth be told, yeah, it'll be a much more secure network after all this is done than it was before. It would be more secure
Right.
probably than Xbox,
One
right?
would hope,
It's
yeah.
like, with 9/11 and the security in the airports.
It is exactly.
I want to
like
be
that.
nowhere near that comment.
You have
right
to
now.
take your shoes off before you play your
No,
PS3.
what I'm saying probably didn't sound right, and I'm not.
You're
trying to
saying
be
that
insensitive.
a
But
crisis.
probably the safest
Yeah.
time to fly was after 9/11.
No, I understand
when
what you're
everybody
saying.
was afraid.
Yeah.
Right.
That's all I'm trying.
Well,
to
and
say.
they locked down the security procedures to the point of inconvenience
Yeah,
because they
of
felt
course.
that the inconvenience was a small price to pay for safety,
Yeah, we don't even want.
which
to
is
touch that.
in fact an excellent segue into people
Anthony, tell
have
us
been
about this.
finding GPS tracking devices attached to their cars in the United States. So here we
That
have
was a good segue then.
that was a flawless.
That was
He is
beautiful.
the maestro. He plays us all, not even the computers. And so what you're looking at here is a GPS tracking device. You'll see up top the cylindrical object. I feel like I'm on CSI. You're looking up top, the cylindrical. I don't know why I need an accent.
Just so you know, I've never seen CSI.
okay,
Ever.
it's terrible.
Okay.
Yeah.
So basically, it's a bunch of D batteries that's in that cylindrical cube up or the cylindrical tube up
Do
top.
we have scale? How big that is?
That will be as big as
Okay, now I
imagine
know.
4 D batteries end to end, which is what you're looking at there. They're
Right,
long
so it's
life.
like
They will,
a baton.
amazingly, nerdily enough, those batteries are supposed to last 8 to 10 years.
Holy smokes.
They use some sort of was it lithium something? They're not lithium ion. They're lithium something
Thank
something.
you, Pakistan.
And
I think it's Afghanistan.
so basically,
sorry.
if we could go back, Mark, to the breakdown picture, all the pieces, and then we're looking at a GPS antenna, which is the little blue-looking object
on the right.
On the right-hand side. Below that, that's your radio transmitter.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, it reads the GPS coordinates into the transmitter. It transmits the GPS coordinates and the ID of the vehicle to the protective friends at the FBI.
The real part of this that I want to get to first, you said people are finding.
People who are of interest to the FBI, obviously. The one gentleman that did find it was his father was the leader of His father was, I guess he was a leader of a local Islam community group.
So he's a mullah or a
so
religious...
he wasn't a religious figure, but he was of a
an elder sort of.
Yeah, he was a member of a community association, and he had done business abroad. Like they had immigrated from Egypt, I believe, was this gentleman's father.
And is that who found it? This particular person found
one? So this young man, who's I can't remember what his name is, but this young man took it to the mechanic. The mechanic saw I think it was if you look at the little box in the bottom, you'll see a gold lead, and that's the radio antenna that's coming off right there. Mm-hmm. They found that sticking out. So I think they had it up in the back quarter panel in the back of his truck, and that part was sticking out. So the mechanic went, "Oh, what's this?" And he traced it, and he found the battery pack and everything else, and so he took it all down, and it was.
That's crazy.
Probably to them it was obvious, but I have experience with this because one of the companies I used to work for was interested in selling these devices, so I've actually wired them in. Now I wired it into my car, which is probably a bad idea because my boss knew where my car was, and so instead of using those batteries, they'll just wire it into the car's electrical system.
So this is the same kind that. That a company would use
it's like
Xerox to keep track. Keep track of their delivery vehicles so they can track efficiency. And,
and the same. So when you buy an anti-theft device, it's this device, except it also has a lockout, so it would actually wire into your vehicle's electrical system.
Right.
And so you could remotely basically trigger it, and it would shut down the electrical in your vehicle, and your car would grind to a halt. This is basically OnStar, really.
Wow. Right.
This
so
setup.
So the point here is.
That they were doing it without any kind of permission or warrant.
Is it? Well, the question
is,
they
don't need it.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah,
they haven't broken any laws.
Yeah, the interesting part again, I can't speak to this particular device, but basically the exact same device that this young gentleman had found. He took pictures of it. He put it on his blog, and the FBI basically showed up at his house and said, "Awesome, can we have it back now?"
Oh, really?
Because it's not yours, it's ours. And so they basically said, "We'll make your life difficult if you don't give it back." Because apparently this unit. Ridiculously, government pork and all that cost about $50,000. This unit, you could build this unit for about $1,000 probably.
Yeah.
I love government.
Why don't
pork.
they just hide iPhones in everybody's trunk,
or give everybody one and track them all with Project Echelon or something?
Wait a minute.
Yeah. So
okay, this is exactly the kind of thing that is going to be making people who are right-wing conspiracy buffs and Alex Jones aficionados. They're going to be either saying, well, it only makes sense that we put these inside these Muslim guys' cars, and then B, this is more evidence that the government is, tracking us and putting chips in us.
For sure.
It's always having your cake and eating it. This seems to be the nature of politics, but
well, it shouldn't be any surprise that the government's agencies will be using technology in these kind of ways.
They listen to every cell phone call,
exactly, with or without permission.
P.S. That's insane, right? They don't actually listen to every cell phone
what
call.
What they have is
software.
incredible algorithms that listen to everything and for keywords and flag things.
Yeah.
So this guy who found it is one of several who have turned up with it.
One of several. Yeah. So basically, those minks. This is one of several who have turned up, and I don't know anybody else's story. I just know this one gentleman's story. And because also they gave it to there's a blog that did a full teardown, so they took it all apart. But end part is not very interesting. Basically, it's a tube full of batteries, a GPS antenna, and a combination.
It's more the fact that it's hidden away in somebody's car. They obviously had to mount
and I don't know if
it's
people don't seem particularly surprised that people are finding them because I think, and like the people are aware that again, given the climate after 9/11, where the authorities were given a lot more leeway. Mm-hmm. Now, the FBI had said to this one gentleman that they did, in fact, they had a 30-day warrant to put it in, just FYI to him, which is strange that they told him that. But
They said we had a 30-day warrant.
They have I'm assuming that what that meant by that is they have an internal system, whereas they
Right.
request one of these units
yeah.
for a
Of
specified
course.
case.
It's
Well-
the same as a bug or anything else.
Yeah, but
if
certainly,
you tell people that you're tracking them, then they don't do the activity that you're trying
yeah.
to watch.
So, yeah, this is always the
Well,
interesting part of this whole
speaking-
conversation.
Speaking of, that's a good segue into the cell phone. Speaking of that, like, are we surprised that our cell phones are tracking our GPS coordinates and our movements, and that there's a record on our iPhones that goes back as long as we've had iPhones of every place we've been? Are we shocked by
not
this? Are we
surprised.
appalled by that? Are we
Well,
mad about that?
I don't think anybody wants that information and cares about it.
I think
that's
as
the
I
point.
understand the issue as well, it's not necessarily the phone is tracking. The phone
It's
is tracking you.
capable.
They're capable of what it's doing is in fact caching the coordinates.
Yes.
So next time you go to activate it, it can
No,
acquire
to
the
me, it's
satellites
actually
more
brilliant.
quickly.
When I heard how it worked, I'm thinking,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
That
Like-
makes sense.
If
The-
you can access it for your
the
own
problem,
Well, you can.
The problem is that
Yeah.
you can pull. Yeah. The big problem is that it's cached and it should only be cached in the hardware, and you shouldn't be able to pull it back off.
No, but
the
what I mean
machine.
by awesome isn't it whether I know it's there or not, and that I can track look at a little map of everywhere I've been, which is
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
It's awesome that when I drive up to an area that I've been to before, it's got things
the cell-
cached that all of
yeah.
a sudden the speeds and of my connection and all that kind of stuff and access to the internet, everything's faster. That's good for me.
Yeah, it can
Oh,
very
I
quickly
wasn't aware
acquire
of
the
that part of
antennas,
it.
Yeah, that's why they're doing it. That's
memory for the
it,
antenna.
so it's
I
like it's
see.
triangulating points and making. So when you're using your, say your GPS that's
Right.
assisted by wireless, well, it's already made all of this stuff and it's in a database, so it doesn't actually have
Gotcha.
to call out and find that
Look
Wi-Fi
for
because it knows it's there.
I'm
Things
so
like
stupid.
this.
I'm
It's
getting
no
that.
different than when Google was driving around with their
fancy
Google.
cars.
fancy cars.
Yeah, the
right?
iCars. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't have a problem with it. A lot of people are suing Apple. Apple's had to put little stickers on all their latest phones that say, please note that your phone is being tracked, and all of these warnings and stuff. And I guess it comes back to maybe what we were talking about with PlayStation. Just tell us about it so we know. Most of us are going to pick it up and just keep on driving.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing to me is who has a problem with it? People who are do something wrong,
Yes.
and who has a problem with it? B, people who are paranoid.
Yeah.
Now, I do respect privacy. I mean, I agree with the EFF, the Electronic What is it?
Frontier
Frontier Foundation.
Association
I think it's the Electronic Frontier Foundation.
Foundation. Yeah.
Yeah.
EFF sounds right.
And the idea that we want freedom and
Sure,
privacy,
sure.
and we want the ability to decide whether we take part or not. But then the other side of it is who's going to access it?
Right.
Joe Blow in whatever town in the
Yeah.
middle of nowhere. Nobody's going to pull that data up, and nobody's going to
and
care
it
about
isn't
it.
even going to be specific to you as
Right.
a user. It's just data, that's all being aggregated somewhere.
So the value of it is not necessarily something that would ever come into play. The value of it could be used as a whole pile of statistical information that
Yeah.
someone could analyze as a lump.
That's
and
right.
say,
Yes.
the lion's share of people drive this speed or go to these places or whatever, and that maybe you don't want available, or you don't want to be part of that. But I don't think you as an individual.
And I guess you should be given the option to opt out. I just think that it's a bunch of hot air. It's
got blown out of
It's
proportion.
blown out of proportion, right? Because it's been obviously been going on since day one. Like we all have used Find My iPhone on our app, right?
I haven't used it.
I could pull it up right now and I can see that my wife is in the front room.
So you think
Or I could tell if she was at Coffee Culture, or if she, wherever, like at some other place.
it's a scary sound?
Yeah.
Well,
I think it just pointed out a defect in the architecture, which is basically the programmers who designed the phone should have segregated that information off so you couldn't pull it off during a sync operation or write some sort
Right.
of data to extract it. And they say that basically that it's getting fixed in the next version. They're making people aware of the issue.
Yeah.
Again, let's move
To-
on. I don't think it's a real big deal.
Yeah, I agree. It's not a big issue. To me, it's like, actually, I hope that all this pressure doesn't make them take that out, because I think that is actually
Yeah.
it's actually a value.
Rapid
to
acquisition of a
me.
signal is a very good feature for a phone.
It's a
Yeah.
very good feature. So
Yeah, it's useful.
anyway, yeah. Well, we are getting onto our hour.
we
I
are.
hate to say.
You do hate it.
I
don't you?
hate to say it, but I know people have short attention spans. We could just ramble on forever.
I think we have some of the shortest attention spans of all.
Well, it's possible. The one thing I won't even get into that.
Listen, I think the bottom line is we've solved a lot of problems today. Once again, we've made Microsoft sit up and take notice. Like they've really paid attention.
We've really held them accountable today.
Oh boy,
Their feet are to the fire.
Wow. Or either that, or their feet are to us somehow. We are looking at their feet,
Their feet are warmed by our
foreheads.
efforts.
So
I don't think that worked like I anticipated.
Wow, I thought it was pretty good.
Their feet. We're looking at their feet really closely. Yeah, watch your feet, Microsoft.
Yeah, Microsoft.
Look out for your feet.
That's right.
We're looking at them.
Well, I think Microsoft might surprise us. That's my prediction.
I'm looking forward to our consulting check coming in
yeah,
for the
it's exciting.
Full Pop
very
Nerve
excited about that.
Center.
Yeah, we're not.
headquarters.
You hear us talk about Apple and you hear us talk about Microsoft. We have no loyalties.
Well, we get a lot of email about people saying that we're Apple centric.
Well,
The public.
the public. It's all perception.
Listen, man, you can't control what the people do.
No, you can't.
Anyway, thanks for coming out, everybody. Appreciate all the all the cards and letters for Mark's recent birthday party that he had,
Thank you.
and
And the balloons.
the balloons that we saw here at his
very,
place
very
at
nice.
the Faux Pop Nerve Center.
No, we really appreciate it. We appreciate your loyal support, and you keep those letters coming in. Everything we've talked about today has been in response to your emails.
Yep.
And or else we wouldn't talk about them. So keep sending those thoughts and ideas in.
Yep.
And we could use more. We could always use more.
But because we don't have any thoughts really on our own.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true.
And thanks for the comments, as always.
Yeah.
We always welcome comments. And on our Twitter, you can comment to us on our Twitter on the Full Pop TV page.
Yeah, but don't criticize us. I'm very sensitive.
Yeah.
I'm easily hurt. I remember one time somebody said something mean to me on the internet.
Dear.
Yeah, it's true.
Those rascals.
Unbelievable. Just the thoughts just strike me about the cell phone thing. It's the same as the internet thing. Like people are always complaining about privacy, and I'm thinking, well, just don't use it.
What, the internet or privacy?
But the internet, it's a given, isn't
Yeah.
it? Like it's a given.
If you're looking at dirtysite.com, people are going to know.
and I've got a GPS in that phone, it's a given. Like, why are people so surprised?
I guess they just didn't consider the ramifications.
I guess not.
Okay, thanks for coming, everybody. We'll see you on the next one. And just take care of yourselves. And remember, you're being followed.